What if I told you that the most dangerous financial decision of your life begins the day your savings first reach $100,000? You'd probably find that hard to believe. But what's even more surprising is that most people never realize their wealth starts slipping away from that very moment. There's no market crash, no major financial emergency. Yet just a few years later, that same $100,000 is either gone or it has grown so slowly that financial freedom feels more like a dream than a reality. The strange part isn't that people manage to save their first $100,000. The strange part is that, for many people, their financial progress starts slowing down after they reach it. And this isn't just an opinion. Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman's research showed that as money and confidence grow together, people often become more confident in their own judgment than they should be. In other words, the biggest risk isn't always the market. Sometimes, it's the decisions we make ourselves. That's why many people don't lose their wealth because of one big mistake. They lose it because of small decisions that seem completely harmless at the time. Months pass, then years, and by the time they realize what happened, they've lost more than money. They've lost time. And time is the one asset that not even the world's richest billionaires can buy back. But the most surprising part is still ahead, because the decision most people believe is their smartest financial move is often the one that slows down their wealth the most. You might be wondering, if this decision is so dangerous, why don't people recognize it? The answer is simple, because it never looks like a mistake. It feels like a reward. It feels like the smart thing to do. And that's exactly why even the most disciplined people fall into this trap. In his best-selling book, The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel explains that financial success isn't just about how much you know. It's also about how you behave when money and emotions come together. And while we're using $100,000 as an example in this video, the same idea applies whether you've saved $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, or any amount that feels significant to you. The moment your savings reach a level you've never had before, every financial decision starts carrying more weight. One small choice can help your wealth grow for the next 10 years, or quietly slow it down. And the first decision that most people say yes to without thinking is often the one that becomes their most expensive financial mistake. You might think the first mistake is making a risky investment or getting caught in a market crash. But for most people, the first mistake begins the moment they tell themselves, "I can afford it now." That's when lifestyle inflation quietly starts slowing down their financial progress. A nicer car, a bigger house, more expensive vacations, and little luxuries that once felt special slowly become part of everyday life. One purchase won't ruin your future. But when you're spending just $1,000 more every month, that turns into $12,000 a year. Now stop for a moment and think about where this is leading and what I'm really trying to show you. That isn't just money you've spent. It's money that could have been working for your future. Behavioral economist Richard Thaler used the idea of mental accounting to explain why this happens. Once people reach a new level of savings or income, they often start treating that extra money like a bonus instead of future capital. And that's why they spend it more freely instead of letting it grow. The most dangerous part is that this happens so slowly that many people don't notice anything is wrong for years. They don't realize their wealth has stopped growing until it's too late. But the next trap is even more dangerous because this time, people don't spend their money. They keep it so safe that it quietly loses its real value. At this point, you might be wondering, what exactly is inflation? Simply put, inflation means that, over time, the prices of everyday things go up, while the buying power of your money goes down. In other words, the same amount of money buys you less than it used to. For example, imagine your favorite cup of coffee costs $5 today. 10 years later, that same coffee costs $8. If you still only have $5, the problem isn't the coffee. The problem is that your money has lost part of its buying power. That's inflation. Now let's bring this back to your savings. If inflation averages around 3% a year, then $100,000 today could have the buying power of only about $74,000 in 10 years, unless your money grows faster than inflation. That's why Warren Buffett has often described inflation as a hidden tax. No one sends you a bill, but year after year, it quietly reduces what your money can actually buy. And that's what makes it so dangerous. You look at your bank account and see the same number, so everything feels fine. But in reality, your money has already started losing its real value. And once people realize this hidden trap, many of them swing to the opposite extreme, the very mistake that often becomes even more expensive than the first one. And that's where the third mistake begins, one that can be even more expensive than the first two. At this point, people aren't just saving money anymore. They start believing they understand the market. In psychology, this is known as overconfidence bias. It's when people become more confident in their knowledge and predictions than they should be. And that's when the real risk begins. Imagine you're scrolling through social media and see a stock that has doubled in just a few months. The comments are full of people showing off their profits. You start thinking, maybe I'm missing out on a great opportunity, so you invest. A few weeks later, the market drops. Fear takes over, and you sell at a loss. The surprising part is that this isn't just one person's story. DALBAR's investor behavior reports have consistently found that the average investor often earns lower returns than the broader market. There are many reasons for this, but emotional decisions and poor timing are among the biggest. In other words, the biggest problem isn't always the market, it's how we react to it. That's why truly successful investors don't spend their time trying to prove every prediction is right. Instead, they build a system that protects their decisions from emotions. And that system is often one of their greatest financial advantages. So the question is, if these mistakes are so common, how do successful investors avoid them? The answer isn't a secret stock, a magic strategy, or the ability to predict the market. The answer is a system. And every great system starts with one simple mindset: stop seeing your first $100,000 as a trophy and start seeing it as capital. A trophy sits on a shelf. Capital goes to work. Imagine two people with exactly the same amount of money. One uses it to upgrade their lifestyle. The other uses it to create more opportunities for their future. The first person enjoys the reward today. The second person may have to wait a few years. But compound growth has always rewarded patience. That's why Vanguard's research and long-term investing philosophy consistently emphasize staying invested, keeping a diversified portfolio, and thinking long-term instead of trying to predict every move in the market. And maybe that's why one simple question can change every major financial decision you make. Is this decision upgrading my lifestyle or building my future freedom? Because in the end, your first $100,000 was never the destination. It was simply the point where every decision started to matter even more. The choices you make from that moment on will determine whether your money simply sits there or quietly grows into real wealth. When this video began, I asked you one question. What if the most dangerous financial decision of your life begins the day your savings first reach $100,000? By now, that question probably has a very different meaning. Because the real danger was never just the market. It was small decisions that seem so normal, we never even think of them as risks. Lifestyle inflation, the quiet effect of inflation, overconfidence, and emotional decisions. Any one of these alone may not define your financial future, but when they're repeated year after year, they quietly shape the direction of your wealth. In the same way, long-term wealth usually isn't built by one perfect investment. It's built through years of disciplined decisions. Imagine looking back at your financial journey 10 or 20 years from now. You probably won't remember one specific day or one investment, but you'll remember the habits, the system, and the way you made financial decisions that slowly changed everything. So maybe the real question isn't how much money is in your account. The real question is, are the decisions you're making today creating the future you'll be proud of tomorrow? Because in the end, wealth isn't built, Overnight, it's built one decision at a time. Decisions that may seem ordinary today, but can lead to extraordinary results years from now. And if you'd like to keep improving the way you think about money and building long-term wealth, make sure to stay with Wealth Nest. Because this channel isn't just about making more money, it's about building the mindset that creates lasting wealth. If anything in this video wasn't completely clear, let us know in the comments below. We'll read your questions and do our best to reply to every one of them. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.